Look, some guys transmigrate into a world and immediately become overpowered kings with system cheats and skill trees that go on forever. Our boy, he woke up as the designated punching bag, the throwaway villain who exists purely so the real main character can style on him before breakfast. Moon Campbell, blonde, noble, filthy rich, and in about 20 chapters of this story, absolutely nobody will remember his name. That's who our guy became when he opened his eyes in a medieval European-looking castle instead of, staying dead from his car accident like a normal person. He's standing in front of a mirror, looking at a face that should be his same features, same bone structure, except he's 17 again, younger, sharper, actually good-looking before life turned him into a broke, overweight mess grinding through his 30s with nothing to show for it. For a second, he almost convinces himself this is just one of those sad dreams. The kind where your subconscious goes, hey, remember when you had potential? And then you wake up and eat instant noodles for the 4th day in a row. So he grabs a little knife to test the theory, slices his finger. Blood wells up immediately, bright red and very much real, and the pain hits like someone jammed a needle under his nail. He's licking the cut and muttering curses because, damn, this isn't a dream. This is happening. And that's when the memories start flooding in, not his memories, but Moon Campbell's, the original owner of this body, a guy who got stripped of every title he had, thrown out of his own family, turned into a beggar on the streets. His father literally told him if he ever stepped foot on their land again, he'd be killed without a second thought. Apparently Moon did something unforgivable. Something so bad his own blood wanted him erased. Our guy's hand goes to his face as he puts the pieces together. See, he used to read this story, a manhwa called The Protagonist, the Strongest Woman in History. Yeah, the title tells you everything you need to know. It's the classic formula: abandoned girl rises up, develops insane powers, slays monsters, becomes the greatest hero of her generation. The twist is just that she's a woman instead of the usual guy. And Moon Campbell? He's one of the early speed bumps. A minor noble who sends assassins after the protagonist in the opening arc, gets completely embarrassed when she levels up faster than anyone expected, and then gets kicked out of his mansion as punishment. 20 chapters later, nobody even brings him up anymore. He's narrative fertilizer. The kind of character who exists so the real MC can demonstrate growth. And that's who our guy is now. Fantastic. He's processing all of this when someone knocks on the door. He tells them to come in, and a maid walks through carrying clothes. She's explaining that the outfit for tomorrow's banquet has arrived, asking where he wants it, but then she stops. Her eyes catch the blood on his hand. She asks if he's hurt and he tries to wave it off. Just an accident, nothing serious. But this woman, this absolute professional, drops to her knees without hesitation and starts cleaning the wound. She's gentle about it, careful, telling him he really shouldn't hurt himself like this. And our guy, he's turning red, full tomato mode. Because listen, he was a lonely otaku in his past life. And having a pretty maid kneeling in front of him showing genuine concern is doing things to his heart that he wasn't prepared for. He's sitting there thinking he needs to remember this moment forever, frame it, put it on a mental shelf. She finishes up and spins around, telling him to take care of himself before heading out. The door closes, and this man is literally flailing on his bed, rolling side to side, covering his face and muttering about how this world is perfect. He has a maid, an actual maid, who's nice to him. The bar is on the floor and he's still impressed. Meanwhile, outside the room, the maid is walking away with a confused look. She's thinking it was weird that he said thank you, which tells you everything about who Moon Campbell was before our guy took over. The original was apparently such a massive jerk that basic politeness from him registers as suspicious behavior. Great start. But okay, our guy's thinking now. How does someone born with good looks, noble status, and a cute maid working in his house still end up making enemies with the protagonist? What kind of brain damage leads to that decision? From the memories, the main thing that got Moon exiled was trying to drug the third princess. Yeah, he was that guy. The creepy noble who couldn't take a hint. And once the protagonist exposed him, his life was over. But here's the thing, now that our guy knows how the story goes, he can just not do any of that. Keep his head down. Enjoy his cushy life. Don't antagonize the woman who's destined to become the strongest being on the continent. Simple, right? Then it hits him. The maid mentioned a banquet tomorrow. If the banquet is already tomorrow, that means Moon has already done most of his villain arc. He's already made moves against the protagonist, already built up all that hatred. The banquet is where everything explodes, where the protagonist confronts him and his life goes off a cliff. He's not at the starting line, he's at the finish line, and the car's already on fire. Our boy immediately starts rolling around in bed, calling out to anyone who might be listening. System, goddess, mysterious grandpa cultivator, bald monk with secrets, literally anyone who can give him a cheat, a power-up, something to survive tomorrow. Nothing. No response. Just the sound of his own desperate bargaining with the universe. He takes a breath. Okay, new plan. Tomorrow, as soon as he sees the protagonist, he's going to run straight toward her, drop to his knees, bow 3 times, beg for mercy. Maybe she'll go easy on him if he shows enough sincerity, or maybe she'll stomp on his face. And if she does, he hopes she's wearing black tights and takes her time about it. Look, the man has specific tastes. We're not here to judge. That's when something smacks him in the head. He whips around, ready to yell at whoever threw it, and sees a small book lying on the bed. His eyes go wide. Is this it? The cheat? The cheat? Did some higher power finally answer his prayers? He grabs it immediately, clutching it like his life depends on it, which, honestly, it does. Finally, he's not going to be a loser forever. He's going to gain infinite knowledge, change his fate, become the secret mastermind who... He opens the book. Empty. Every single page is blank. Not a single word, diagram, or magical inscription, just paper. He stares at it for a long moment, wondering if maybe it needs a special activation. Maybe there's a password. Maybe he's supposed to channel energy into it or something. He's holding it up to the light, shaking it, even sniffing it like that's going to help. When the book decides it's had enough of being disrespected, it attacks him. The edge catches his forehead, and blood drips down onto the open page. As soon as the first drop hits the paper, darkness erupts from the binding. A thick, heavy aura that seems to swallow the light in the room. His vision blurs. His body feels like it's being pulled somewhere else. And then, he's not in his room anymore. His hands are bound. His feet are locked down. There's something around his neck, cold metal pressing against his throat. Every part of his body hurts. The deep, aching pain of someone who's been beaten thoroughly and left to suffer. He forces his eyes open, trying to figure out where he is, when a voice cuts through the darkness. You slept for quite a while. A girl steps into view. She's got this unsettling smile, the kind that doesn't reach her eyes. He mentions that his body hurts, and she just nods like that's completely reasonable. Pain is inevitable when learning a lesson, she says. You have no idea how sad I am. I didn't want you to end up like this. She moves closer, and every word out of her mouth makes his skin crawl. She explains that he's been too cruel, too selfish, but that's not actually the problem. The problem is that recently, his heart started to change. He started showing tolerance, started being kind. And that's unacceptable. He was supposed to bring pain to others. He was supposed to make everyone hate him. That was the only way he'd belong solely to her. But now he's ruining everything by trying to be decent. No matter how long it takes, she says, leaning close enough that he can see something broken behind her eyes, I'm going to purify you. And then we'll be together forever. Then she stabs him. Not once, not twice. A barrage of strikes, one after another, pain exploding through his body in waves. He's screaming, thrashing against the restraints, and then he wakes up in his room, gasping, sweating, very much alive and unrestrained. What the hell was that? He's breathing hard, trying to process what he just experienced. That girl, her name floats up from Moon's memories, and she's one of the people connected to the protagonist's story, though he can't remember exactly how. But one thing is crystal clear now. She wants him to stay a villain. She wants him cruel, hated, isolated, because as long as he's terrible to everyone else, he belongs to her. Which means if he tries to become a better person, she'll punish him for it. Our guy sits there on his bed, staring at the ceiling, realizing that his situation is somehow even worse than he thought. If he stays on the villain path, the protagonist will destroy him. If he tries to leave the villain path, the psychotic Yandere will torture him. There's no winning here. There's no good option. He's trapped between a hero who hates him and a monster who loves him too much. But hey, at least the maid is cute. He looks at the book again, and this time there's writing on the page that definitely wasn't there before. Do not alter fate. 4 words. That's it. But those 4 words just rewrote everything he thought he understood. If begging for forgiveness would have led to that torture dungeon scenario and tying him up, stabbing him repeatedly while talking about purifying his love, then the book basically just saved his life. It showed him what would happen if he tried to go soft. The universe, or whatever force is running this nightmare, apparently has a script it wants him to follow. Deviate too far in the good direction, and the Yandere corrects you, painfully. So fine. He's not going to grovel. He's not going to beg. He's a modern man with modern knowledge. And he's going to use every advantage that gives him to navigate this mess without getting killed by either the hero or the psycho. He'll change his fate, but he'll be smart about it, strategic, careful. That resolution lasts about 10 minutes before he's sitting at the dinner table, stuffing his face with premium cuts of meat, internally monologuing about how amazing aristocratic life really is. The food alone is worth fighting for. Losing all of this would genuinely hurt. Sitting beside him is Noyes Campbell, his mother. And look, the woman appears to be around 18 years old. Biologically, that's probably not accurate, but whatever magic keeps nobles looking young is working overtime here. She's gorgeous, sweet, and currently telling him how happy he looks today. His father, Lon, adds that Moon must be excited about the ceremony tomorrow. It'll probably be one of the most important moments of his life. Our guy just nods along, agreeing without giving too much away. His mom then says she can't let him go to the banquet because all the noble girls will fall for him. Lon points out that's impossible since he has Princess Celia. Any girl who tries something would only make her jealous. At that, his mother's whole demeanor shifts. She pouts, saying she doesn't like this Celia girl. The princess isn't cute at all and doesn't deserve her precious son. Moon's just sitting there confused. Why do his parents have so much faith in him when the original Moon Campbell was objectively terrible? And who is this Celia anyway? Then, the memories click. Princess Celia, the third princess, the one Moon was supposed to drug at the banquet. She's one of the major catalysts for his downfall in the original story. Classic tsundere archetype, cold as ice on the surface but supposedly warm underneath. Everyone loved her in the source material. He sets down his utensils, feeling a heaviness settle in his chest. His parents are actually good people, kind, supportive. The original Moon wasn't exiled because his family was corrupt. He was exiled because he was rotten, and his father didn't want a rotten son representing their house. The whole reason the Campbell family gets destroyed later is because people assume Lon ordered Moon to assassinate the princess as some political betrayal. The sins of the son drag down the entire bloodline. That thought hardens something inside him. He can't let that happen. Even if it means putting himself at risk, he refuses to be the reason his family falls. The problem is, the ceremony is tomorrow. There's no time for elaborate plans. What he needs to figure out is what exactly happens during the drugging incident. How does Moon get the potion to Celia? Who gives it to him? The memories from the original Moon are patchy on the details. He's walking through the halls, lost in thought when he bumps into someone. A blonde maid stumbles back, tea splattering across his clothes, and immediately her face goes white. She's already apologizing, already bracing for punishment, saying she spilled the madam's black tea and her life is over. She's going to be fired. She'll be eating scraps on the street by tomorrow. The fear in her eyes is genuine. This girl fully expects to be destroyed for a minor accident. That tells him everything about who Moon Campbell was before. He tells her to relax. It's fine. He's not going to punish her. And then, because apparently his smooth-talking instincts from his past life are still intact, he pulls her into a gentle hug and tells her everything's okay. She's frozen, completely confused, asking what the young master is doing. Honestly, he's not entirely sure either. His hands might be getting a little too comfortable. That's when Anne appears. She calls out to him, and he straightens up fast. He asks the blonde maid for her name Null and tells Anne to take care of her. Anne says that she and Null are busy preparing for tomorrow's banquet. They can't slack off now. He waves that off and tells her to just hire more people to help. The mansion is massive. How do they not have enough staff? Anne bows and agrees. As he walks away, Null comments quietly that it's strange. The young master never let anyone help him before. He always said other people were dirty. Anne agrees something feels off. She mentions they might need to move the plan forward before things get out of control. Back in his room, Moon tears through every drawer and box he can find. Whatever poison Moon was supposed to use on the princess has to be somewhere. Some kind of high-level hallucinogenic potion strong enough to affect a mage. That's when he finds it a black market card. The kind of thing you'd use to buy goods that definitely aren't legal. Night falls. The commercial district is quieter now, shadier characters moving through the alleys. Our guy slips through mostly unnoticed, following half-remembered routes from the original story until he reaches a nondescript door. He says the password Sweet Rats shows his credentials and gets welcomed inside. The loopholed black market, potions, rare ingredients, magical creatures, synthetic beasts, and of course slaves. One of the protagonist's future allies was actually purchased from this place, but that's a problem for another day. He enters a private room and is greeted by someone in a cat mask. Could be a woman, could be a man. The body underneath suggests curves, but the voice is deliberately ambiguous. They ask what he's looking for. He says he wants something colorless, odorless, effective on mages, knocks them out for hours. The seller jokes that he must be planning a real fun time and offers to recommend some slaves to go with it. He declines and turns to leave, but they stop him, saying they'll get the potion. As the seller reaches for the vial, the door opens again. Someone else walks in, black tights, serious energy. A masked woman asking for the exact same type of potion, something strong enough to target mages, leaves no trace. The seller seems confused. This is a rare request, and suddenly everyone wants it on the same night. Moon watches the transaction happen. The mysterious woman pays with information instead of money, a letter containing something valuable enough that the seller accepts it. She takes her potion and leaves. Moon pays normally, gets a bonus vial thrown in. The seller says combining it with the other potion makes the experience better and heads out. He asks about the information that woman provided. The seller grins behind her mask and says if he wants it, the price is 900,000 Amelia. 7 times what he paid for the actual potion. He calls her a scam artist and leaves. The moment the door closes, the seller removes her mask. Definitely a woman. And now she knows exactly what's about to go down at the Campbell mansion. The question is, who's she going to sell that information to? Probably both sides. Maximum chaos, maximum profit. The next night arrives faster than he'd like. The Campbell palace is packed with nobles. Our guy stands among them, dressed in his finest, trying to project confidence he doesn't feel. A mustachioed gentleman approaches with his daughter, suggesting it would be wonderful if she got to meet young Mr. Campbell. The girl takes one look at Moon, starts trembling, and bolts in the opposite direction, screaming that her mother was calling her. The father apologizes, says she's a bit shy. Moon notices the pattern quickly. None of the noble girls seem happy to see him. They avoid eye contact, find excuses to be elsewhere, practically radiate fear. His reputation has completely poisoned the well. His father, Lon, places a hand on his shoulder, oblivious to the social carnage. He says he's proud of how Moon's been conducting himself. Tonight, he stops being a boy and becomes the man of the Campbell family. Moon thanks him and says he'll do his best. Then an announcement cuts through the noise. The third in line to the throne is arriving, blessed with the purity of snow, known as the Ice Goddess. Princess Celia enters. She looks like Payman from Genshin Impact, and that's not a casual comparison. Same silver-white aesthetic, same cold ethereal beauty, same presence that makes everyone in the room stand a little straighter. Little sparkles catch the light in her hair. The girl is rocking serious firepower with that outfit. Whatever accessories she's wearing look ready to burst out. Lon tells Moon to take care of her and heads off to mingle. Moon approaches, introduces himself properly, compliments her appearance. She thanks him, but there's suspicion in her eyes. He's being way too polite, way too normal. This isn't the Moon Campbell she's used to. He suggests she rest after her long trip. As she walks past, all the nobles bow, and she's thinking to herself that something is definitely off with this guy today. Nearby, Moon overhears nobles gossiping about some illegitimate daughter who had a duel with her husband. People don't like her because she's illegitimate, divorced, and still wants to qualify as an heir. Before he can process that, the protagonist arrives. Ariel Buard, black hair, the one destined to become the strongest woman in history. Standing next to her is a friend named Leah. Ariel greets Moon casually, and some big guy nearby immediately jumps in, asking how she dares speak so informally to the young master. Moon shuts him down fast. It's fine, she can talk however she wants. Ariel almost short-circuits. The guy who used to treat her like garbage now knows how to pronounce her name correctly. He reaches out to greet Leah as well, and Ariel slaps his hand away. She grabs him and pulls him close, voice low and dangerous. She's here because of his father. If he even thinks about trying something shady with her or Leah, she'll make sure he never walks out of here alive. Then she leaves. Our guy respects it. She's putting on the righteous hero act, but deep down she's probably hoping he does something stupid so she has an excuse. The night continues. Moon gives a speech. Turns out this banquet is for his 18th birthday, and everyone applauds. He spots Celia standing by a mirror and approaches, asking for a dance. She accepts. They move across the floor, her complimenting his steps, him deflecting that he's still learning. She notes how much he's changed. Now he's finally acting like a noble. Then she drops the bomb. She wants a private conversation. She knows this marriage is political, arranged by their families. He says if she wants to cancel it, he's willing to work with her on that. She pauses, then asks how about they head to his room right now. He wasn't expecting that. She's already pulling him away before he can respond. Off to the side, 2 maids watch with mischief in their eyes, whispering about how that girl just went off with the mentally challenged young master. They say they need to act fast, because that's Lionheart territory. In his room, Moon offers her a drink. She declines, saying she can't have even a single drop of alcohol. He's in trouble now. The original plan required her to drink something. He asks what she likes. She says coffee, then changes to black tea when he says that's available. He goes to prepare it, and here's where things get complicated. He's got 2 vials, the sleeping potion, and that bonus vial the seller threw in, which turns out to be an aphrodisiac. He decides to use 1 drop of the sleeping potion, colorless, odorless, should knock her out for hours without any lasting damage. He's not actually going to do anything to her, he just needs to stage the scene so it looks suspicious when the protagonist bursts in. That's how the original story goes. But as he's turning around, she calls his name, startles him, and his hand jerks. The aphrodisiac spills, a good chunk of it hits the floor, and some of it lands in one of the cups. He's relieved that neither potion leaves a magical trace. His original plan was to sell the extra, but that's ruined now. He brings the tea over. Celia comments that the Campbell family's black tea is strangely red and shiny. He lies smoothly, saying it's an extremely rare herb from the east. She tells him to drink first. He goes to take a sip, but she snatches his cup at the last second, saying his looks better. They should switch. She drinks. One sip later, her eyes go unfocused. The cup falls from her hand. She collapses onto the sofa, unconscious. He dosed both cups. Smart move. Now he just needs to stage the scene. According to the original story, the protagonist is supposed to burst through that door any second. He lowers Celia's skirt slightly, unbuttons part of her outfit, removes his own shirt. Anyone walking in would assume the worst. That's the plan. Get caught, get condemned, but in a controlled way. He waits. Half an hour passes. Nothing. An hour. Still nothing. No Ariel kicking down the door, no dramatic confrontation. In the original story, someone bumps into Ariel, spills something on her dress, and that's why she ends up wandering toward this wing. But the person who was supposed to bump into her was Null, and earlier today, Moon told Anne to let Null rest, to hire more staff instead. That one small act of kindness broke the entire chain of events. He's standing there, shirtless, half-staged crime scene set up, when the woman on the couch opens her eyes. Eamon Celia wakes up, but something's wrong. Her eyes are glazed, her face is flushed, and the room suddenly feels freezing cold. That's when he realizes which cup got hit with the aphrodisiac. A hand grabs his face. Ice magic slams him to the floor before he can react. He begs her to calm down, says he can explain, but she cuts him off. There's no need for explanations. Her body feels cold, his feels warm. That's all that matters right now. He says he'll get a doctor. Too late. His wrists are already pinned. She dives in. She kisses him. Our guy is mentally screaming for Ariel to show up and save him, because if nobody interrupts this, the staged act is about to become very real. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Ariel is walking along, annoyed that her dress got stained. She hears strange sounds coming from somewhere nearby and pauses. That's when Anne appears out of nowhere, saying this area is restricted. She offers to clean Ariel's dress with magic, does it flawlessly, and then casually mentions something about pistachio cake being served at the party. Ariel lights up. Cake sounds amazing. She thanks Anne and walks off toward the party. Anne watches her go, smiling sweetly. Then she turns around, and the smile turns into something darker. Ariel senses something off, the faint smell of blood in the air, but shrugs it off. She's in the Duke's mansion, not her problem. Besides, the Ice Princess can handle that spoiled brat on her own. Nothing beats cake. Meanwhile, in a different part of the estate, two shady maids are whispering. The gray-haired one says Ariel wasn't the target, she was assigned to someone called Number 9, who she apparently killed even though he was a higher rank. The darker-haired maid tells her to hurry. If Campbell shows up, the mission could fail, but her partner says not to worry. She already checked on the situation. The action was in full swing. Back in the room, Moon is absolutely wrecked, scratched up, exhausted, barely holding on. But wait, nothing actually happened. He was just struggling to defend himself the whole time. And now Celia's waking up properly, drug effects worn off, and she has a sword at his throat. Final words. She wants his final words. He tries to calm her down. She says he's going to the afterlife without saying anything. He panics, blurts out that his intentions came from real love. She almost takes his head off, calls him disgusting. He apologizes, points out they didn't even do anything. She snaps that the attempt alone is filthy. If he'd tried to win her over with real effort, maybe she would have accepted. But he went the sleazy route. Suddenly, something on the other side of the door catches her attention. She grabs him by the neck and forces him to command whoever's outside to leave. Then she throws him to the floor and tells him to get dressed and answer the door. He's dying regardless. He opens the door. A maid he's never seen before stands there, holding food, saying they spent some time together earlier. He tells her to set it down and thanks her. But wait, he's never seen this woman. She claims she was hired to help with the banquet, but he knows no new staff were supposed to be brought in. She agrees, then lunges. She knocks him aside. Her real target is Payman. Two knives fly toward the princess. An explosion of ice blocks them at the last second. Payman demands to know if her idiot brother sent this assassin. The maid says the details are confidential. And then the real battle begins. Payman charges with an ice spear and nearly puts it through the assassin's skull. The maid dodges at the last second, admitting that Payman's magic is way more dense than expected. These two are going at each other with killing intent, ice and steel clashing in the middle of a bedroom that was supposed to be the site of a staged scandal, not an actual battlefield. Moon tries the door again, sealed. Some kind of barrier magic is keeping it locked from the inside, which means nobody's coming to help and nobody's getting out. He ducks behind furniture as stray attacks tear through the room, thinking to himself that when gods fight, mortals suffer. There's literally nothing he can do here. He's not a mage. He's not a warrior. He's a guy who read this story in his past life and somehow ended up inside it. And right now, the only skill that gives him is the ability to recognize how absolutely screwed he is. But something clicks as he's hiding there. The decision to bring in outside staff that was made just yesterday. He told Anne to hire more people. If someone prepared an assassination plan that accounted for new hires, that means information was being leaked in real time. Someone close to the family is feeding details to whoever organized this attack. He nearly gets clipped by a blast of ice and presses himself flatter against the wall. All he can do now is pray that Payman wins. But then he looks at her, still standing, fierce as ever, beaten up but gripping that spear like she was born holding it, and a darker thought crosses his mind. What if she doesn't win? If Payman dies here, nobody would ever find out what he did. The potion incident, the stage scene, all of it would be buried with her. His reputation might actually survive this night intact. He hates that he's thinking it, but he's thinking it. The assassin maid notes that Payman really is a genius. Payman responds coldly that she can already feel someone using gravitational magic to mess with her footwork. There's another person involved in this attack. She demands to know who. The maid just smiles and says that, as the rumors claimed, Payman truly is extraordinary. Payman tells her to shut up and speak who's behind this. Talk now, and maybe she gets spared. The maid's answer isn't what anyone expected. She says she's not here to kill anyone, just to buy time. The room starts shaking. Somewhere else in the estate, another maid, the one with gray hair, announces that the chamber is now fully sealed. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a vial, declaring that she offers the lives of 100 children as a sacrifice to the Lord of the Melted World. Payman's expression shifts. She recognizes what's happening. The power of a dark god is being invoked. Red energy floods the room like a living thing, slamming Payman against the wall before she can react. She knows immediately that if those rats show up now, whatever creatures this summoning is calling forth, she doesn't stand a chance, not in her current state. The assassin confirms it. Rats, sure, but the real target tonight is the princess. She moves in for another strike. Payman, desperate, grabs the dagger from Moon's belt and blocks the attack at the last possible moment. The assassin is shocked. This girl is bloodied, tights shredded, beaten to the edge of exhaustion, but she managed to protect her vital points. Still, it doesn't matter. Payman has no magic left. One brutal kick to the ribs sends her crashing to the floor. But Payman's built different. She gets back up. The assassin sighs and says she'll make her death a painless one. She lunges for the finishing blow. Blood sprays. But it's not Payman's. Our boy jumped in front. No blocking, no deflection, no clever plan. He just threw himself between the blade and the princess and took the hit head on. Pure stupid courage. And here's the thing that's been nagging at me this whole time. Remember earlier when Moon got stuck at the table during the banquet? When the sequence of events got thrown off because Null wasn't in position? I'm pretty sure Anne was behind all of that. The staffing change, the timing, the way everything lined up for this attack to happen. 1 + 1 = 2. She's literally on the story cover. How did I not connect the dots earlier? Anne calls out Moon's name. Payman wants to know why. Our guy is on the floor now, spitting blood, barely conscious. He's remembering how earlier, when that other maid opened the door and told him he could leave, he considered running. He thought about just getting out of there and letting whatever happen happen, but he realized he couldn't do it. He calls out to Anne, asking what she thinks she's doing. Anne, voice cold, tells the useless fool to stop getting in the way. But before she can move again, Payman walks past Moon's crumpled body. One clean slash opens Anne's throat. The girl drops to her knees. The Ice Princess stands over her, expression frozen, and simply declares that it's over. Now, Moon's lying on the floor, barely clinging to life. Payman kneels beside him, and something shifts in her eyes. If he jumped in to protect her, then these weren't assassins he hired. That realization hits her hard. What throws her off even more is that he protected her without thinking, because if she had died here, no one would have ever known what he did in this room. He could have let her go and walked away clean. He manages to speak, says none of that matters anymore. Just like she said earlier, he chose to act like a true man. That one lands. But this is Payman we're talking about. The Ice Princess doesn't melt easy. She checks his pulse and coldly informs him that based on the reading, he's got enough strength left for maybe 3 more sentences. He better make them count. She'll pass his final message along to the Duke. He reaches up. His hand touches her face. He says truthfully that he's sorry. In the end, he really did have feelings for her. Then his arm drops. Man went out like a legend. We know he's not actually going to die. Plot armor is thick in these stories, but if he did, that would have been an epic final moment. Payman isn't having it though. She says that bastard doesn't get to die after apologizing like that. Not after everything he did. She calls his name and tells him she's not accepting that apology. He's going to live, and he's going to pay for every single thing. In the void, Moon floats through darkness, feeling dizzy and flushed with heat. He's thinking that even though he tried to make good choices, death was inevitable. At least this was better than following the game's storyline. At least this way, he got to decide how his life ended. He got to go out on his own terms. But then a strange black energy appears beside him. A panel materializes, showing a breakdown of his progress. Categories float in the darkness: arrogance, envy, greed, shamelessness, laziness. Looks like it's tracking the 7 deadly sins. His stats are wild, minus 90% in gluttony, 99% in envy, 50% in arrogance. A few pages of that mysterious book flip over, and text appears telling him to keep trying for now. He yells at it. Why didn't the damn book show up before he died? Where was this helpful guidance when he actually needed it? The only response is a sound something like ignore, and then the scene shifts. The sewers beneath the estate. Ashes drift through the underground passages, and someone is murmuring that Campbell wasn't the real target after all. Then a voice cuts through the darkness. What do you think you did to my son? The father appears. Lon Campbell, radiating pure Lionheart aura, the kind of presence that makes the air itself feel heavier. The assassin who escaped the gray-haired maid starts shaking immediately. This isn't the gentle, supportive dad from the dinner table. This is a beast, he says, calmly, that he wasn't expecting visitors in his house. She wasn't invited. So what was she doing here? And she better speak now. What did she do to his son? The man is usually nice. Right now, he's terrifying. Thinking back, our protagonist probably would have been happy knowing he managed to grind some Aura Sungjin Woo style before dying, build up that foundation, leave something behind. Or maybe not, because suddenly we're back in the bedroom and Anne is sitting right beside him. The one we now know is dangerous. He opens his eyes and she's right there, asking sweetly if the young master is feeling any better. Does he need a doctor? He tries to get up, says he wants to go to the bathroom, but the pain in his chest hits immediately. He falls back into the soft sheets, apologizing and saying his legs feel strangely weak. But here's the thing, he needs to be careful now. He can't afford to be openly hostile with her. She's absolutely not to be trusted, but she also doesn't know that he knows. He has to play this smart. She tells him that his fiancé asked her to take care of him, so he should know she'll be staying close for the time being. Then, without warning, she says she's going to help him bathe, and immediately starts reaching for his clothes. He quickly tells her to calm down, saying he just started feeling better. She accepts that, says fine, she'll let him be independent, but then picks him up anyway and carries him to the bathroom. He tells her to get out, says he has stuff to take care of, and eventually manages to get some privacy. Later, back in the room, she fills him in on what happened. He slept for 3 whole days. He barely survived, lost a massive amount of blood, and went without oxygen for too long. The only reason he's alive is because Payman managed to use some kind of magic to keep him going until help arrived. Hearing this, Moon realizes something important. Payman probably didn't tell anyone about the potion incident. If she had, he'd be in chains right now, not recovering in bed. Anne continues. The princess did mention something important though. What she actually revealed is that they uncovered the whole assassination plot. Moon's father captured one of the attackers and tortured the truth out of them. The problem now is that the family still has to formally apologize to the king. His daughter was put in danger inside their estate. That's not something you just brush off. But here's the weird part. Moon didn't receive any punishment at all. Apparently, Princess Payman said something to the king, something that led to him being completely forgiven. Our guy collapses back onto the bed, finally letting himself feel relieved. In the end, things didn't go that badly. He's alive. He's not in prison. His family isn't being executed for treason. But Anne immediately leans in close, eyes curious. Why does he look so tense? What happened? Did something happen between him and the princess in that room? She mentions how Payman said she wanted something warm earlier. Moon denies it instantly. No way he'd do something that bold. He'd be sliced to bits. Anne laughs and tells him to go ahead and drink his medicine while it's still warm. He takes a sip. Immediately gags. The taste is absolutely vile. He asks what the hell that stuff is. She explains it's a tonic to help him recover and rebuild his blood supply. Necessary medicine. Not optional. Outside the door, 3 maids are standing there whispering to each other. They're saying that whenever the young master eats something sour, he usually whips everyone, but today he's acting really strange. They're wondering if they should report this to the madam. Moon hears them and tells all 3 to stay put. Don't say anything. It's just regular medicine. Then he forces the whole thing down in one go. The maids close the door, a little spooked. He sits there for about 2 seconds before his body rejects everything. The vomit that comes up looks like straight crude oil, black and thick and absolutely disgusting. And the worst part? He's going to have to drink that stuff 2 more times if he wants to fully recover. Anne casually mentions that if he wants, she can make him some pancakes, maybe some tea to wash the taste away. She hands him a slice of cake and he thanks her, saying she's way too nice, says she even deserves a raise. She lifts her skirt ever so slightly just a flash and says she appreciates the compliment. Then she heads toward the door, saying she's off to finish the rest of her tasks. On her way out, she tells him to check the nightstand. There's a letter waiting for him, but then he calls out asking her to wait a second. During their earlier conversation, she mentioned that he'd already taken that sour medicine 4 times. 4 times? So how is that possible? The moment it touches his mouth, he throws up. There's no way he kept it down even once, let alone 4 times. Anne answers calmly. She put sugar in her own mouth and passed it to him. Moon's brain takes a moment to process that. She, mouth to mouth, 4 times. He relaxes for half a second. Sugar would help with the taste. That's practical until the full image finally clicks in his head. His face goes through about 7 different expressions in rapid succession. Then he's screaming into his pillow, muffled sounds of existential crisis leaking through the fabric. But truthfully, lying there in the soft bed, warm sunlight coming through the window, he's thinking that if something like that really happened with this big sis, life might not be so bad after all. Then he suddenly remembers he also kissed Payman during the whole drugged incident, when she woke up under the aphrodisiac's effect and pinned him down. That happened. He grabs the letter from the nightstand and tears it open. The message inside is short. Payman now considers him half a man. He sighs in relief. At least the crime situation was avoided. If you enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Yume Recap, and stay tuned for the next video.